Hey everybody, I'm Ben Higgins.
Hey, I'm Serena Pitt.
Hey, this is Blake Moynes.
Hey guys, I'm Brendan Scanzano.
Hi, this is Alana Milne.
Hey, I'm Lindsay Hamilton.
And you're watching The Bros Ceremony.
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 And you're watching Bros Ceremony.
And you're watching The Bros Ceremony.
This is The Bros Ceremony.
Your journey's about to begin.
Recapping the week that was in Bachelor Nation and previewing what's to come in the next episode with some special betting odds.
Everyone can't wait to find out what happens next week.
Here are your hosts, Michael the Hound Dog Harrison and Adam Scully.
Will you accept this rose?
Will you accept this rose?
Will you accept this rose?
This is purely a coincidence. Hello and welcome inside episode 31 of The Bros Ceremony. Adam Scully alongside Michael the Hound Dog Harrison. And Michael, we're being released a day later because yes, Bachelor in Paradise only on Tuesday evenings now for the rest of the season, a couple more weeks. Lot to get to in this episode. FOMO finally ends. We'll get to that shortly. But Michael, in last week's episodes, a lot going on in Bachelor Nation. Just overall impressions of the last two episodes. What were your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I believe actually the Bachelor in Paradise goes all the way until the Bachelorette starts in October.
That makes sense.
Or November, whenever it starts. Yeah, because the Tuesday episodes, I was looking at the schedule, it at least goes to, I think it's October 12th or whatever. So do not fret for those who love the Bachelor in Paradise. You still have lots of Bachelor in Paradise leading into the Canadian Bachelor in Paradise. And of course the Bachelorette. So it really seems to be a year-long thing now with the Bachelorette franchise, or Bachelor franchise. Because I know before it used to be sometimes they'd have a few months off. Doesn't seem like they're doing that at all anymore, which is smart, obviously. Kind of makes you go, why didn't they do that before? Yeah.
But, so I think, well, they named two Bachelorettes, Katie and Michelle, who is the next Bachelorette, and they believe they've actually now finished filming of her season. So generally there's just the one Bachelorette. And if I'm not mistaken as well, I think Paradise is generally over by now. Like I thought it was just sort of after Labor Day. But anyway, more Bachelor content, the better. You mentioned Bachelor in Paradise Canada, and that gets going around Canadian Thanksgiving as well, which is October the 10th, I believe, that for Sunday evening. And they're now going away from Monday nights because of both Dancing with the Stars and Monday Night Football, or both, I think.
Something like that. Probably. Yeah. Though certainly the football makes sense. But yeah, I believe the Dancing with the Stars is going on as well. But yeah, there's lots to obviously get to these two episodes. The last week with the two episodes, and my goodness, holy, my head was spinning after those two episodes. They were absolutely tremendous, and people were mad at what was going on.
People were certainly mad. And now where we left off last was Kendall arriving on the beach, doing the blow by, right, by everyone saying, "Where's Joe? Only came here for Joe." And that they had a conversation that lasted a lot of that first episode last Monday evening. Some would call it maybe a bit of a yawn festival, but maybe not me, some. It seemed like they were just sort of going in circles, talking about logistically why they broke up, and it just seemed like sort of a long, drawn-out conversation that they could have trimmed in half, in my mind, anyway.
That, and then it was as if it never existed in the conversation, and they'd never dated really, and they were just on an island, like nothing was going on. It's like, wait, hold on, wasn't that supposed to be a thing or not? Okay, I suppose not. So very, very, very bizarre that conversation. I think it was the first half hour of that first episode, and then it was, like I said, it basically was just as if nothing had changed at all. It was totally normal, and they were back to, I guess, trying to date other people or something. One thing I did appreciate from the production standpoint of that was when they were going from Serena talking about Joe, and she was upset because she saw Joe having a conversation in the distance with Kendall. The rack focus from Serena to then seeing Kendall and Joe, primo. I was like, that is amazing film production or TV production there by the Bachelorette producers. Bachelor in Paradise producers. Yeah, that was amazing. But yeah, it was just weird. It was just weird to me how all of a sudden it was over. No big deal.
Yeah, there was no real conclusion, like no real closure. And then Kendall stayed on the beach and sort of didn't really hear much from her moving forward. But I love what you just did there with the effect you did on the rack focus, just for those, because the camera guy is literally going like this on his camera. So that's some visualization, visual learning, if you will, from Michael the Hound Dog Harrison. Now, on our last episode, Michael, you spoke glowingly about how grocery store Joe's smile lit up a room. And after the conversation with Kendall, he went to go, what a segue here, went to go speak to Serena, and that smile, it was there. And he basically told her, Serena, we're one of the best relationships here on the beach, if not the best relationship, and I'm here for you.
And did you agree with my assessment of that? Anytime
it's
you
a big smile.
You're just like, you can't help but not smile. I find like, obviously, clearly they're making grocery store Joe to be, as he was his original seasons, the favorite of the whole thing. Obviously everyone loves him, and we'll get to him having the out of character argument later on, which was the second episode, which was a big surprise considering, normally he's pretty, mellow and chill and low key. But I thought he was great, and it seemed like the conversation. I do feel that he's like, you know what, I've moved past I've moved past Kendall, and I really do want to see, if things can work out with Serena here. So I think they're a good couple. I hope they work out. More often than not, they probably don't, but we shall see, I guess, as it were.
We shall definitely see what will happen going forward. Now, another thing we left off heading into last week's Monday episode, Kenny. Now, Kenny has been a focal subject on the beach, walking in with allegedly nothing on, speaking with Mari, and then Demi, and then Tia showed up, and Tia took Kenny on the date where they quite literally were naked, literally. And they came back that evening. It seemed like this is one very long day, this episode. And they came in, and before Tia and Kenny could even get to the bar together, because they wanted to have another drink, Mari intercepts. And basically they have a little conversation. Demi was involved afterwards. Kenny's a wanted specimen on this beach.
He's definitely a hot commodity, that is for sure, Adam. It does feel like whenever Demi was basically disparaging, good word, Demi, when Demi was disparaging, Mari, it does feel like a lot of things that Demi says of Mari is exactly what Demi is. Like when she's like, oh, I can't stand her. Like she's all about the drama, da, da, da. It's like you're actually
carbon copy. Yeah,
exactly talking about yourself right now, which is so funny. I'm sure obviously she knows that. She's a smart enough girl to realize that. I think she's a smart enough girl to realize that, which is why she makes good TV. But it does feel like her only move oftentimes, or at least from what we saw anyway with Kenny, was just, let's go to the boom boom room. And she said, and I can't remember exactly, but I wrote down in my notes that she was upset about the boom boom room, something about it. And I you can't say that without laughing, the boom boom room. So like, you can't actually be taken seriously when you're discussing that. It just, I love that name so much. I'm almost certain, as we talked about before, they never had that actual name for this before the season. I mean, maybe they did. Maybe people can correct us if so. But I just love it so much. But yeah, it does not seem like Demi is going to get her way on this one.
I was going to say that too. I don't recall a boom boom room being named like that was sort of a thing. And I think what maybe you had written down was Demi sort of whispered it in Kenny's ear, do you want to go to the boom boom room? And Kenny said, nah, I just want to go to sleep. And Demi, she did not like that.
No, she's, like I said, she's not. I'm curious to see where that all ends up for Kenny in terms of who he will end up being with, because obviously you mentioned Tia when she came onto the show. I would have thought that she would have been more of a focal point this first few episodes that she came on, because obviously she's a big star, or at least was anyway. And again, just sort of like with Kendall, kind of went away from her, didn't really show her a whole lot, really.
Yeah, her and Becca as well. And near the end of the second episode, they've, finally Becca was given a little more screen time, because, Becca's one of the more, if not probably the most famous person on that beach in terms of following, and because she was the Bachelorette and everything she had to go through. And that leads right to my next point, and following and social media. So again, what a second there. So
on fire.
Brendan, not Canadian Brendan, but Brendan, who is on this season of Bachelor in Paradise, one of the first guys on the beach initially. And there were rumors going around that him and Pieper were, they'd seen each other, they'd hung out. They weren't a couple, but they had seen each other. They had hung out before. And of course, Bachelor being as brilliant as they are behind the scenes and how they write the show and edit the show, in comes Pieper. And Pieper walks on and doesn't really talk to anyone. Well, says hi to people and then says, Brendan, let's go on the date. And it was like, something seemed a little fishy here. No?
Well, I mean, that's the obvious part. I guarantee you production said to her, go in and don't even really talk to anyone. Just go straight to Brendan, because obviously they want dramatics and everything. Oh my God, this is crazy. What's going on? What's the deal here? They know exactly what they're doing in production. We've talked about it before. They're so good at editing these episodes. They're so good at showing teases for what's going to come up in the future. They know exactly what they're doing. So I guarantee you, they said to her, go in right away, come in hot, and basically say, I want Brendan right away, just to have more be more interesting. And it's just so funny to me, all that situation. Well, first of all, it's not funny what happened with Natasha.
No.
Brendan screwing over her. Obviously, there's no debate about that. That's very. It's too bad that he definitely led her on into thinking he was more interested in her. But what is funny to me is everyone's reaction to that. They're so mad as to why are they even on the show then if they already have each other and so on and so forth. Like basically the production of The Bachelor and Bachelor
Voice
Paradise.
just cracked there.
It did. Woof.
Wow.
It's it is literally basically the production is online trolls. They're akin to that. So if you were to have no reaction to it at all, they would be upset. They love the fact that the fans are so mad about what's going on with Natasha, Brendan, and the Pieper situation. If they truly, truly only cared about love, of course they wouldn't let them on the show because they saw each other from back home, obviously. But I just find it so funny that people get so angry at what's going on. It's like they actually want you to feel that way. And so people just like play right into their hand every single time, which is amazing. But what Brendan did and how he was talking to Natasha, that obviously is not good. That you can't debate that really.
You can't debate that at all. And there's clearly a disconnect between Brendan and Natasha. And there's clearly a disconnect initially anyway, in the start of their one-on-one with Brendan and Pieper. Basically, Pieper saying we want to pick up where we left off, and Brendan was sort of going, what? Like, what are you talking about? And then quickly things really switched. And I wrote down a couple of quotes here. Brendan saying, and I'm quoting him here, I was navigating this to hopefully be here when you got here. And Pieper saying, thanks for playing the game. Now, do you think they forgot they were mic'd up? Do you think they forgot they were like, I'm curious, like how close these camera people actually are, because they're having a conversation, obviously feet from each other. Like, are the camera people 10 feet away? Are they on cranes? Or like, it just seemed for a second they forgot what they were doing. To me anyway, it seemed like no, you don't think so?
No, not in a million years did they figure out what they're doing. They knew damn well what they were doing, because again, doing that, or there's a moment where they sort of, rustle the mic or to try to take it off or whatever. And then I can't remember exactly what Brendan said, but it was something that wasn't good. They know exactly what they're doing. They're moving the microphone. Clearly they know what's going on. They obviously know they're being recorded, and they just know that that's fine. That's good. Well, they thought anyway, they should expand their brand, which I was reading online. A lot of their Twitter or Instagram followers, went down after this. But I guarantee you they thought for doing all this is going to be huge. It's going to get more people, any publicity is good publicity, so to speak. And but it backfired on them. People actually did unfollow them, which was pretty funny. But yeah, they absolutely knew what they were doing. Exactly. But to go back to Brendan though, I remember his original season. I remember saying this to you very often. I felt him to be very robotic and very just calculated, and just didn't seem to have a whole lot of emotion really, which is exactly how he was with Natasha. I felt like it was just, I don't know. It's just sort of like with Greg, I guess, last season as well. Just there just wasn't. I was like, I'm not fully trusting what's going on here, and obviously that was proven to be true.
It's sort of like as if he had like a script almost, and he had a couple of bullet points that he was trying to hit and say in many different ways, which he did. And it would almost be like interviewing an athlete where they don't want to answer the question, but they basically dance around it for 2 minutes. And you look back at the transcript and you think he literally did not say anything in this. And that's sort of what happened to me anyway. It seemed like initially during their one-on-one, Brendan and Pieper, Brendan was sort of talking about things that were random and didn't have really much to do with what their connection was. And then obviously they snapped back into it, and now they're together. But even later on, when he spoke to Natasha and just sort of danced around giving any sort of realistic answer, I'm curious where this goes. We'll get to what we think will happen with Brendan and Pieper a little later in the show on tonight's episode, Tuesday evening, 8 p.m. Eastern, ABC, City TV, The Works. But Pieper did say, Brendan's my boyfriend. Like, that was like, oh, geez. And obviously there was sort of, so there was some fudging of the truth, if you will, when Natasha, the day after the date, saw Pieper and Brendan and said, Pieper, can I pull you aside? Brendan's like, oh God, what's going to happen here? Where Pieper said, oh yeah, we've seen each other 10 times. And Natasha said, oh, I thought it was 2 times. Like there were a lot of lying going on here from Brendan to Natasha.
Yeah, you could say the discrepancies were just a little bit off for sure on those ones. By the way, I'd be remiss if I didn't say how awesome Natasha's hat was. She had a sweet hat there. I thought that was the coolest looking hat for sure. But yeah, Pieper and Brendan certainly didn't come across looking like roses after that. And as I said about their social media following, I'm almost certain they thought through all this is going to be great TV. Everyone's going to be talking about it. We're going to get so many more followers. And at least as of now, anyway, maybe it's changed. That definitely backfired, which is pretty funny. But I do feel bad for Natasha, as I said, through all this, and obviously she deserves better. And who knows? Maybe she'll find someone on the island coming up here.
Maybe tonight. And one line that Brendan and Pieper exchanged: "Let's take advantage of what Paradise would promote together." Cringe, super cringe. Natasha obviously not too pleased with that. So I believe that was around where the first episode ended. In and around that, it's. I think. Was there anything else I'm missing from that episode?
I don't believe so, Adam. But to try to be as good at segues as you were, you mentioned Brendan earlier, and you also mentioned athletes earlier. And I think we should get to the other Brendan and other athletes, where I create a faux pas for the FOMO that has finally been lifted.
The FOMO finally been lifted. Yes, we've spoken about it for what feels like months now on this Bros Ceremony podcast, when we had Brendan Scanzano on. And yes, he's from the Toronto area. I had the opportunity to hang out with him a couple of times. But this past Friday, the FOMO was finally finished. You got to meet Brendan. This was the exchange when you and Brendan met for the first time. Look at the smiles on your faces. This was just a bromance, and you finally got to meet him.
Yeah, I obviously did not disappoint. It was amazing. And I love I'm not sure if it was you or someone else took a very, very candid photo of us. I love those photos as opposed to the posed ones, where it's just like you're both looking straight at the camera. We were just laughing about something, just like 2 bros just having a good time or whatever. So yeah, it was fun to hang out with him for sure. And then of course, I got to see him as well on the Saturday as well, which was a bit unexpected as well. And yeah, just had a good time, just chatting about life, a little bit about the show. You don't want to go. I didn't want to fangirl too much, fangirl, whatever, too much, and go, talk in intricate detail, but every single thing that's happened on the island to you, you know what I mean? But or on the show, I mean, for him. You got a couple questions in there. And one of my favorite parts was we FaceTimed a previous guest on his season.
We did.
Contestant, sorry, and Trey from also on Paradise. And as I said from the get-go of the previous season, I thought Trey was a beauty, and I was absolutely proven right. I knew I could just tell he was an awesome dude, and he seemed like it. Absolutely.
Now, would you call Brendan one of your best friends now?
I would call him the best friend.
Wow.
Yeah, and so Adam, you're gone, bud. You're out of here. You're not even close now.
I guess my reign on top was fun while it lasted, but I'll take a back seat now. And looking forward to seeing Brendan hopefully sometime very soon. Yeah, had some great words about his time on the season, and nice to just hang out and talk, as you said, talk about life, talk about what this whole period has been, for him on the show, for us with our day-to-day livelihoods, just an all-round good time. And I'm sure we'll see him very soon, Michael.
I hope so. And I did of course tease and say about the faux pas that I also created, which was on the Friday night, which we went out, had a few drinks, a local establishment, and then I guess in my mind, I was like, yeah, I know the exact time frame on this. The reason I'm going to say the exact time frame, it was 12:38 on my phone, my Fitbit app. It said I left to go on the walk home, because I was like, you know what? I've had probably a little bit too much here. I don't want to get too crazy. I'm in public. I'm with a celebrity. I don't want to do anything stupid to maybe embarrass him. Whatever the reasons, I was like, you know what? I probably should leave and depart. Of course, I didn't tell anyone. I've been trying to get better at that, but I didn't tell anyone because of course, if I were to say, "Oh, guys, I'm leaving," everyone would have been like, "You're not leaving. Get the hell, stop. What are you talking about?" So
That's
I did
true.
I just freaking exited. I left. The reason I say 12:38 is because literally 5 minutes later, just 5 minutes later, and I brought up athletes before. That's why we're getting to this. You said, "Where are you, Hound Dog?" And you had a picture with you and your former goaltending buddy, starting goalie of the. And I missed him by absolutely just 5 minutes. And oh boy, classic me. Classic.
You just hate to see that. That's basically all you can say. You just really hate to see that. You missed a great moment. Great guy.
5 minutes. 5 minutes, Adam.
5 minutes. I guess you've learned your lesson here, Michael. Never leave.
I guess learn my lesson. Continue to get drink until you're absolutely polluted. That's the lesson in all this, I guess, right?
That's the lesson, certainly, for sure. Now, I mean, obviously, we had a great time with Brendan, and I'm sure we'll see him soon, whether we're watching sporting events, watching TV, watching anything, and enjoying the downtown core of the Toronto area. But great to see him, and great that last week there were 2 episodes. Oh, another segue of Bachelor in Paradise. I'm gonna roll here. Of course,
you're pitching a perfect game right now. Don't screw it up.
Oh, we just jinxed it. It's all over now. It's you know what? It's too bad that it's not double headers anymore. It's nice. I mean, it's something that I wanted to do, and I guess I could watch them back now. Is just watch both back to back on a Wednesday night per se. I'm not sure if that's too much Bachelor.
No, never.
There's never too much Bachelor.
Well, the problem is that I don't know about you. I'm sure. Well, I know you write down notes. It's not just like, a 2-hour episode's about an hour and 20 minutes in terms of actual real content time. But because I'm always writing stuff down to make sure I don't forget anything. And of course, when you write stuff down, maybe you get a text or two, brag. And you just have different things on the go. I want to check Twitter for something. I want to check the score. That 2-hour episode turned into be a lot longer than just an hour 20. If I were just to avoid my phone completely, it would go way quicker. So it does take a considerable amount of time longer than you would absolutely think.
Yeah, for sure. And, we're taking copious notes here because we want to bring the goods to all of our viewers, whether you're in Amsterdam or you're in Argentina or you're in the Yukon or you're in Toledo, Ohio, wherever you're watching us on YouTube here, we're trying to bring you the goods. And the goods continued on Tuesday's episode of Bachelor in Paradise, last Tuesday, I should say, where a celebrity came in, Titus Burgess, I believe his name. Or is Burgess or Burgess? Do you know?
I think it's Burgess. He was on or is on. I only saw the first 2 seasons of Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, which is a very, very funny show. I believe it was on Netflix. I think it went 5 or 6 seasons, something like that. Anyway, so I know him from that. I'm sure, obviously, he's been in a bunch of other stuff, but that's where I know him from. And yeah, he was fun. He was good. And what I did find funny, however, because he came in and he was very entertaining right away. And he pretty much, I think, if I'm not mistaken, pretty well just said, there's a VIP party and some of you are invited. Some of you aren't invited. And the funny thing was, he was listing all the people who were invited. And I'm like, okay, hold on. There's too many people here. Well, yeah, who's in and who's not? There's so many people on the island. It would have been easier for him to list who wasn't invited, I think, at that point, because it was like 12 names, it seemed like.
Or maybe, if I say her name, come to the front or something, to change it up a little bit. But yeah, obviously, the contestants or people who were picked to go on this date, it wasn't random, clearly. I mean, they're trying to follow storylines here. And so they go to this exclusive party, as it were, sort of dressed up, I guess, to an extent in Paradise. And then Titus came back and said, we have some guests coming. This is going to change some things here in Paradise. So, of course, four former, that's an interesting one, people who are on the Bachelor series in some way, shape, or form walked into the room. One of those ladies, Alana, who was born in the Toronto area, now living in the United States. And, of course, we had on the Bros ceremony around episode 11 or episode 12, maybe a little earlier than that, somewhere in that realm. And Alana had quite a connection with Chris right away. And Chris and Jasenia obviously had a thing, but Alana and Chris hit it off in a big way.
Yeah, so can't really see. There's not much to defend Chris with on this one. Like, okay, fair enough. Obviously, just like Jasenia did when she left Ivan to go with Chris. So you are able to decide to go with someone else. Obviously, on this journey to find love, you are allowed to do that, and she did do that But for Chris to do that, and he decided, okay, maybe I don't want Jasenia as much. She said she was missing something that he needed or something along those lines. And he decided to go with Alana. Okay, fair enough. But it went way over the top, with him making out like crazy in front of Jasenia. That was not tactful at all. And there's no argument or defense for that one. I mean, that was just too much. But here goes back to the whole thought of why I was saying earlier about how people are surprised by these things. The producers are trying to get people upset and all these different things. Should we really be surprised that a guy who referred to himself as a smoke bro wasn't maybe the salt of the earth human being? Should we really be surprised by that, Adam?
No, we probably shouldn't. And this goes back to the Pieper and Brendan conversation. There's a fly in here, where they were, talking about were they in a relationship before coming on the show, and they both denied that in a big way. But there were some San Diego crew of people hanging out, and Jasenia was there, Alana, they were both there. They both met Chris before going on Paradise. But yeah, like you said, Chris took this way too far, sort of jumping ship immediately, and then Jasenia left the party. She'd had enough, and not Brendan, Chris and Alana were dancing pretty close, and everyone was just giving them the stink eye, sort of. What are you doing here? Like,
I thought Jasenia was going to leave the island. I wasn't sure when she was leaving. I'm like, is she off the show, or that fly is really doing a number on you, eh?
Yeah, and then looking down, actually, our good friend Brendan just replied to a fan on our Instagram page. So,
what do you say? Can we reveal what that was?
Yes, absolutely, we can. Someone commented, "Oh boy, we got to open up the Wi-Fi here. Stand by." So a new fan of ours went back in the archives. So when we had Brendan on our show on August the 2nd, that was the release date. Instagram follower Melissa Marmbrust commented saying, "At Bro Ceremony, at Brendan Quinn, at James Bonsall." Oh, James who's on the season with the big hair. Were my faves on Katie's season. Such gentlemans. Okay. And Brendan replies saying, "I know, you tell us 10 times a day." So big fan. Appreciate all the fans tuning in.
Of course.
Over 450 followers on Instagram. I got to say too, for all of our viewers out there, especially people who just scan our stuff and see it on Instagram, over 4,500 views on one of our posts last week on Instagram. So Michael, you just love to see that.
We hopefully are entertaining and can bring the content that will light up Instagram, because I find very much so with Instagram, whether it's this or my golf videos that I'm doing, shameless plug, all bets par off golf videos that I do on Instagram on the reels there. Sometimes it's a lot of people watching them, and then sometimes it's not much at all. I find it very, very random sometimes. And I've talked to people who are like, big time influencers on Instagram. They say the same thing, even to the scale of how many followers they have, that it's like, no, I'm not getting anywhere near the amount of people that I would have thought would watch it. So it's very, very random all over the place. But I strive, and we should strive for a Bro Ceremony to have every single one of our posts have 80,000 people viewing it within 5 minutes.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that'd be great. And
that's attainable.
That's very attainable.
Yeah.
We aim high here on the Bros Ceremony podcast, aim high in a big way. So, the rest of that party sort of there's dancing, it's a party, whatever. So of course, because The Bachelor is The Bachelor, next day, Chris is sort of walking around and sort of moping on the beach, and his hair is just all over the map, just the bedhead walking around. And someone comes walking down the steps. Who is it? What a coincidence. Alana's on the beach. Alana has a date card. Alana asks Chris on a date. And then they go on this date. And that's when you mentioned earlier in the show with Grocery Store Joe's smile that lights up a room. Now he had a frown that would
I thought you were going to go with
someone to the ground.
I thought you were going to say scowl. The smile went from a smile to a scowl. I thought it was the way.
That would have been good.
Darn. Yeah. All of a sudden, well, I think before that, actually, Chris wanted to, before he went on the date with Alana, wanted to have a discussion with Jasenia, and that's where I love Jasenia on that one. She just like, no, what's there to talk about? No, There's no point. Why? No, bye. So that was awesome. But yeah, he when he came back down those stairs, as you said, moping around, and clearly, I guess, was maybe trying to show that he had a bit of contrition. Good word, but it did not seem to it didn't seem to be working on anybody. They definitely did not believe him at all. And yeah, that's when the turned to night. All of a sudden, grocery store Joe, who I said earlier is the most chill, cool, hilarious, fun guy, all of a sudden seemed to get pretty rattled and with Chris, and lit into him big time.
Yeah, led to him big time. And it was a number, it was Riley, it was Joe, it was Jasenia, basically saying, get off the island if you're in a relationship. And, since both Chris and Alana have been on Instagram, saying they're not in they weren't in a relationship. They came on just to find love and that sort of thing. But sort of, I guess, on a lighter note, when they both left Paradise, they showed Chris walking up the beach with his bag. They showed Alana with like a very small bag going to a car. And then Chris opens the car door and Alana says, Chris, you're in my car, and shut the door.
So I would say about that, Adam. Well, first of all, we saw earlier in the episode where they were trying to make out, but they were trying to do it choreographed and like, how do we make out?
Wow.
Yeah. So, but also that scene with the, in the car there, I bless her heart, Alana, awesome guest on the bro ceremony. I would, however, say maybe don't take acting lessons anytime soon, or maybe you should take acting lessons actually sometime soon, because when she said to him, like, this isn't your car, well, it's not her fault. It was production, I'm sure, told her to say that, but I thought it was the most like obvious fake moment in the history of the whole series ever. It was just like, oh man, like they were desperately trying to pull that one off, and I didn't think it didn't seem real at all in any way, shape, or form to me. I was howling with laughter on that one.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. And you know what? You mentioned you howling with laughter. I miss actually watching these episodes with you. I just gotta tell you that we haven't seen any of these episodes together, and like a first time viewing of a new episode of Bachelor, Bachelor in Paradise, Bachelorette, quite some time. So we have to change that.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. It's been a long time. So I actually have no recollection when the last time was. Yeah.
And, speaking of the Bachelorette, Becca is on this season, and she was a former Bachelorette.
So good. I was like, you know what? We should talk about Becca. And then you just, Becca. Wow.
And so they were sort of, Becca, they had some one-on-one interviews where, talking about, am I going to find love here? Talking with Kendall and Tia. It seems like they have a bit of a crew. And of course, Becca is given a date card. And, Becca's been the Bachelorette. Becca's been through it all, really, in the Bachelor series. And so she gets a date card. And what does she do? Instead of just going up to Thomas and asking to go on a date, instead she went to Tammy. So Tammy and Thomas had a fling, or were in a couple, or a couple, I should say. And Becca just did it right. She's all class about it, went up to Tammy and said, listen, this is what I'm thinking of doing. I wanted to go to you first. Tammy said, you know what, go have fun. And it seemed like Becca and Thomas really hit it off.
That is just one that I can't in any way, shape, or form understand at all, because obviously, as we know, Becca is a sweet Bachelorette, one of the more favorite ones of all time. Everyone loved her. Just seemed like a great human being. She just seems amazing. And then on the flip side of that, at least from what we see anyhow, everyone hates Thomas. So it's like, wait, how is this happening? Mm-hmm. It just does not seem to be mixing in any way, shape, or form. But they definitely seem to be liking each other. But you have to think at some point the shoe's going to drop there on Thomas. And based on all these guys, including Aaron and these other guys, have said about him several times, he's only in it to try to get exposure and camera time and all this stuff. You would assume on tonight's episode, perhaps, that he has some sort of misstep here with Becca, and eventually goes back to being Thomas, because at this point, it's like, I just don't see it together. Them being together, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, 100%. It seems a little strange, but Thomas is a wordsmith. The guy knows how to talk. He's and I'm curious. I guess we'll see what happens starting tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. Will there be any rose exchange? Because Michael, there weren't any roses exchanged last week. 2 episodes, no rose ceremony. What's up with that?
We've talked about this before. It's gone over all these, not just Paradise, other Bachelorette or Bachelor seasons. They've really strayed from having the obvious rose ceremony at the end of every episode. They just go to sort of willy-nilly now. they decide whenever they want to have them and so on and so forth. I guess obviously they want to extend stuff, and I guess maybe they're like, oh, it's too much good content, so we gotta keep it going to the next episode. But I would assume, yeah, there has to be in this episode. You would imagine anyway, this Tuesday episode tonight. There's gonna have to be a rose ceremony.
There certainly will have to be a rose ceremony, and I'm curious what else happens tonight. It all gets underway Tuesday tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern. We mentioned Chris and Alana, some drama there, but obviously going into tonight's episode, what's going to happen with Brendan and Pieper? What do you see happening here tonight? Do you think we'll see some sort of big confrontation? Are we going to see Joe and Jasenia and Riley and everyone sort of go talk to him and say, hey, you guys can't be here. You're in a relationship. This isn't the way things are supposed to go down. Or do you think something else is going to happen?
Well, that's why and Natasha touched on this. And I'm so glad she did at the end of the last episode last Tuesday, pretty much right at the end. She's like, why is it okay for basically Brendan and Pieper to be seeing each other? But yet for me and with Chris, everyone was, obviously roasting. Sorry, Chris and Jasenia, sorry. And Natasha's like, what happened to me with Brendan? And yet no one's telling Brendan and Pieper to leave the island. Mm-hmm. So I absolutely understand from her perspective, like what's the difference? The difference is it's even worse what Brendan and Pieper had done, because they actually were in a full-on relationship. Whereas Alana and Chris doesn't seem like they were. And I did feel bad for Alana actually when basically she's like, do you guys want to hear my perspective on stuff? And they're like, no. And it wasn't about, like, ultimately, yeah, they shouldn't have said that, but it wasn't about her. It was because they're still mad at Chris, obviously. But I did feel bad for her in that scenario, because it's like, well, maybe she should be able to defend herself or say something, and they just shut her down right away. But no, I do feel tonight with the Brendan and Pieper thing, it does seem it's going to come to a fever pitch, and they're really going to, something has to happen, because it makes no sense as to why they're not that upset about those two, but yet they were way more upset about Chris and Alana. Makes no sense.
Certainly makes no sense. It all gets underway tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern. We are going to see some fireworks. There is no doubt about that. Michael, 31 episodes in the books here, Bros Ceremony Podcast. Thanks to all those who followed us on Instagram, followed us on Twitter, subscribe to us on YouTube. Of course, before we sign off for today, did you have any final thoughts?
Finally, it works. The perfect episode of Segues finally dovetails.
Now, you thought I was signing off there. You thought I was signing off.
And I was like, no, I actually have a final thought. That's why I was kind of like, the final thought, to go back to the comment on the Instagram from Brendan here, was the woman's name Melissa, I think?
Yes.
The reason I ask about that is because I'm kind of like, just have you ever seen this fan of ours?
No, she followed the Bros Ceremony, I believe, yesterday.
Oh, okay. Because I didn't see that, because unfortunately I'm locked out of the Bros Ceremony Instagram account, so that's why I had no idea about that. Yeah, because he's like, yeah, but you told us 10 times a day. I'm like, I've never seen this individual messaging 10 times a day, so I was very, very confused, and I can't get into this. Speaking of FOMO that we were talking about earlier, it's a little bit of that with not having access now to this Bros Ceremony Instagram account. It's driving me nuts.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I wish I was an Instagram savant. Clearly, I'm not. But hopefully we can figure out a way to get you back involved with the Instagram and can see our messages, that sort of thing, see the activity we get, because it's a flurry sometimes, and it's nonstop, just phone flashing up. This person liked this person commented here, this person likes this. 4,500 views on one of our posts last week involving Joe and Kendall. Michael, you just love to see that. 31 episodes in the books, so many more to go. 8 p.m. Eastern tonight. And some exciting stuff that we will also talk about on next week's edition of the Bros Ceremony. Also looking forward to that. For Michael the Hound Dog Harrison, I'm Adam Scully. We'll see you next time right here on the Bros Ceremony.